and Yahweh. Why do you think that might be? Abba wants us to know about the strong delusion and deception that's coming. How many of you know prophecy's light in a dark place, but men love darkness? Right? We're going to go through several scriptures today. I'm going to be focusing on this map here. The man of sin is called the lion in Joel 1. In Micah 5, he's the Assyrian. In Isaiah chapter 10, verses 5 through 15. You might want to take notes. Isaiah chapter 10, verses 5 through 15. He's the Assyrian. Also in Isaiah, he's the king of Assyria. In Isaiah chapter 10, verses, chapter 14, verses 24 through 27. In conjunction with Isaiah chapter 31. Isaiah chapter 31, verses 27 through 33. Isaiah chapter 30, verses 27 through 33. And Isaiah chapter 31, verses 4 through 9. How many of you know we do not serve a schizophrenic Father in heaven? He is not a dispensationalist. How many of you know that most of our brothers and sisters out here in the denominations are? Is that okay? Can you be Israel without knowing you're Israel? Yes. Good, because if not, we'd be responsible for our own salvation, and it would be our knowledge of who we are that makes us Israel. Who defines who Israel is? Say it again? So if I gather 500 people in Chicago, and 500 people in Portland, and 1,200 people in St. Louis, and multiply that by 5 to be generous, and we move to the land, is that Israel? Okay, good. Israel's a lot larger than that, isn't it? Right. I'll have you know that in the last days, many will come claiming to be anointed, and yet in Messiah's name will deceive many. What was the thing that offended people in Matthew 24? The notion of the coming kingdom. Right? If your idea is that we build the kingdom, then this will likely offend you. Kings build kingdoms. The kingdom of heaven is what? Shaken by violence, and what? The violent take it by force. That's right, that's right. Today we're going to go through the physical attributes of the man of sin. In Isaiah chapter 10, he is the Assyrian. Oh, the Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, the staff in their hand is my indignation. I will send him. Who's in charge? I will send him against the hypocritical nation and against the people of my wrath will I give him a charge, to take the spoil, to take the prey, to tread or trample them down like the mire of the streets. Are we exempt from Abba's judgment? No. Would we want to be? Yeah. No, we wouldn't want to be exempt from his judgment, because he's the righteous judge. His judgments are for our betterment. Judgment begins in the house of Yahweh, right? And then it's executed on the wicked 10-100-fold, right? Abba, is in charge. We do not need to be the ones blaming Arabia. Okay? We don't need to repeat and regurgitate the garden scenario again. What we need to be is people who are pointing up and not outward. Come on. Okay? It's not popular, but I can tell you there's some bloodlust in the Messianic movement. Some folks would like to arm themselves and go over there and indiscriminately mow people over. That is not what Messiah said to do. Oh, it's not popular, but then again, we didn't come to take a poll. Friend, the ones who we want to follow after are the ones who are pointing up and not out. That's right. We're called to be living sacrifices, aren't we? I send you out as what? Sheep among lambs to the... Okay. The Assyrian doesn't think so. How is it that he meaneth not so? Neither does his heart think so, but it is in his heart to destroy and cut off not a few nations. For he says, are not my princes altogether kings? Is not Kalman like Carchemish? Is not Hamath? Syria, the butcher of Hamath, was the former president of Syria, Hafez Assad. Is not Samaria as Damascus? Watch what he says. As my hand hath found the kingdoms of the idols, whose graven images did excel them of Jerusalem and Samaria, shall I not, as I have done unto Samaria and her idols, so do to Jerusalem and her idols? Please understand, friends. The man of sin, the son of perdition, is a tool who will be thrown aside as a profane, abominable branch after the chastisement of Judah and Ephraim has ended. Please understand. Again, point up. We want to point to the Father. He's in charge. Be not afraid of the Assyrian, for soon, Israel, my wrath will turn from you, and it will turn to him. Wherefore it shall come to pass that when the Lord has performed his whole work upon Mount Zion and Jerusalem, he will say, what? I will punish the fruit of the stout heart of the arrogant king of Assyria. Stout, haughty looking. Your scriptures may say, for the haughty look in his eyes, arrogant, stern-faced, Daniel 8, verse 23 through 25, haughty looking, arrogant, boastful, blasphemous. For he says, by the strength of my hand have I done it. He's boasting because he's clever. By my wisdom, for I am prudent. I have removed the boundaries of the people. He's a unifier. Please understand that unity is not the end result. Truth is the end result. And sometimes truth divides. I have removed the bounds of the people. I've robbed their treasures. I've put down the inhabitants like a valiant man. Luke, I am your father. Okay, I've got this bubble in the middle. It keeps me away from the podium. But that means I'm level, I guess.
Move the mic to one side.
Put it in your hand.
Hey, how about that? Okay.
Take it off and put it in your hand.
Is that better?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
He robs their treasuries. He boasts about his ability. Is it okay if I stand over here? He boasts about his ability to do it. He puts down the inhabitants like a valiant man. And then look what happens. He says, my hand is found like a nest, the riches of the people, as one would gather eggs which have been abandoned. So I have gathered the whole earth. Not one wing flutters, not one beak opens, or even lets out a peep, he says. And Abba replies to him and says, shall the axe boast against the one who chops with it? The saw against the one that shakes it. It's as though a stick could wave the hand that lifts it, as though the stick was not merely wood. You, sir, are a tool, an instrument in my hand. And when the rebuke and the chastisement on my people is over, I will turn to you. You will be cast aside as a profane, abominable branch, a horror before all who knew you. The nations will look upon him, that wicked king of Babylon, and say, is this the man that made the nations tremble? There's going to be one name that's lifted up. It will not be Profound Prophecy International. It will not be any of our various denominations which we are trying to erect again in the Messianic movement. It is going to be Yahweh's name. He is going to crush the olives before the olives flow through the menorah. I love you, but I got to tell you, judgment begins in the house of Yahweh. Keep going. The bird, back up one. What's the mightiest nation on earth? It's okay, you can be honest. What's the mightiest nation right now on earth? How many of you know that stops when we stop supporting Israel? Okay? How many of you know this nation's going to be judged like Zechariah 12:3 says?